at this late hour. Mr. Speaker, I stand right from the onset to say that I oppose this particular motion, Mr. Speaker, and I have reasons for doing so. Mr. Speaker, the key witness or the mover of the motion came before this House yesterday, Mr. Speaker. And although I'm not a lawyer, but I know that it is there in the rules of natural justice that whoever alleges must prove. The Honorable Mutuse was not able to prove any of the allegations or any of the grounds that he laid against His Excellency the Deputy President, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Kenyans were and are watching these proceedings. They were able to see the cross-examination and to hear the cross-examination of the Honorable Mutuse, Mr. Speaker. And I want to urge this House, Mr. Speaker, that if we want to uphold the dignity and the honor of this House, that Kenyans were and are still watching, you cannot impeach the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, on allegations, on grounds that were not able to, that the mover was not able to prove, Mr. Speaker. And that is what prompted the question, I think, by Senator Wambua, which later was asked by Senator Okia Omtata, which you were able to stand down because it had already been asked, whose motion was Mutuse's? Because it was not his motion. He had no proof of any or for any of the allegations, Mr. Speaker, and that is why this House, in order for us to uphold, like I've said, the dignity and honor, we need to vote no to this motion, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, many that have spoken before me have talked about the woman, the adulterous woman that was caught in the Bible. Senator Kajwang put it even better, that they did not bring the man that she was caught in the act with. Mr. Speaker, we need to ask ourselves, how good are we? How clean are we? Are we qualified to throw the first stone, Mr. Speaker? I think that is the first question that we should ask ourselves, that as we judge the Deputy President, how good are we? How many mistakes, how many offenses have we ever committed? How many sins even have we ever committed? And God forgive us, and our fellow human beings also forgive us, Mr. Speaker. But the most moving thing, Mr. Speaker, is that we did not give the Deputy President an opportunity. I know, of course, the motion to defer this particular, to adjourn up to Saturday did not pass. But, Mr. Speaker, under Section 50 of our Constitution, Mr. Speaker, we, 50-0, Mr. Speaker, we need to give any person, 50-0, that is 50, Mr. Speaker, 2F, to be present and when being tried, unless the conduct of the accused person makes it impossible for the trial to proceed. Mr. Speaker, the Deputy President was taken ill, according to what the council reported to this House. And, Mr. Speaker, we did not give him an opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I draw your attention also to our Constitution, Article 145, Clause 5, the President shall have the right to appear and, not or, and be represented before the special committee, Mr. Speaker. We did not give him that opportunity. Mr. Speaker, because I can see my time is wearing out, if not for anything, Mr. Speaker, I ask this House, you cannot condemn a sick person. Any one of us can get sick. I want to appeal to my colleagues, Mr. Speaker. Nobody chooses when to get sick and when to be in good health. We cannot afford to judge a person, to condemn a person when they are in hospital, Mr. Speaker. And so I want to appeal to the members of this House that if not for anything else, you consider that the Deputy President has been taken ill and show the necessary compassion. And, Mr. Speaker, I want to my majority leader is here, and he made a statement that was very disturbing, that even those that are saying that it can bring division should.
Senator Mogene. Mr. Speaker, sir, first on my own behalf and on behalf of the people of the great county of Nyamira, I want to send a message of quick recovery to His Excellency President Rigathi, and we wish him a speedy recovery. Mr. Speaker, the Bible says in the book of Ecclesiastes 3, verse 1, that there is a season for everything. There is a season to be born politically and a season to die politically. That's biblical. The Speaker, I've agonized. Mr. Speaker, I've gone through a lot of soul searching, Mr. Speaker, as I listened to the evidence that was tendered against, as I listened, Mr. Speaker.
Just pause the time for Senator Mogeni. Let us allow Senator Mogeni to be heard in total silence, please.
Speaker, as a lawyer and a person who witnessed the birth of the 2010 Constitution, Mr. Speaker, I strongly believe, Mr. Speaker, that Kenya belongs to all the 42 plus tribes, Mr. Speaker. And what has disturbed me, Mr. Speaker, for the 2 days I've sat here, Mr. Speaker, what would happen to my community in Kisii and in Nyamira if we ran our government through this theory of shareholding? Mr. Speaker, as I speak tonight, Mr. Speaker, the people of the two counties of Omogusi, Nyamira and Kisii are victims of that theory of shareholding. That community, Mr. Speaker, called Omogusi, has got no even a single PS serving in government, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we speak this evening, Mr. Speaker, the Omogusi people, Mr. Speaker, have been the biggest victims of this theory of shareholding. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution that we enacted in 2010, in Article 27, Mr. Speaker, clearly states that we should not discriminate, Mr. Speaker. I hope, Mr. Speaker, when I cast my vote tonight, I'll be sending a message from the people of Nyamira, Mr. Speaker, that a government is formed for all the tribes in the Republic of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. I've agonized, Mr. Speaker, on the issues that have been brought in this motion, touching on the widow and the children of the late Governor for Nyeri, Gachagua. And Mr. Speaker, I wondered if adverse statements and inferences have been made touching on the conduct of the Deputy President against the widow of the former governor and the children of the late governor, the nephews of the Deputy President. Why, Mr. Speaker, I ask as a father, why, Mr. Speaker, did the widow and the children of the late Governor Gachagua swear an affidavit to dispel all the things that have been said against a scheme of swindling those children? Why, Mr. Speaker? Why didn't they swear an affidavit, Mr. Speaker? That has troubled me a lot. And as I cast my vote tonight, Mr. Speaker, I'll be casting my vote for those children who lost their mother, who lost their father, but who were not given an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to appear before this House and tell us, Mr. Speaker, that there has not been any wrongdoing from the Deputy President to those children. Count number 1, count number 8 is about the utterances that were made by the Deputy Speaker. I hope, Mr. Speaker, that the person who will occupy that coveted position of Deputy President will reflect on what John says in chapter 3, verse 5. Mr. Speaker, the Bible says that the tongue is a small part of the body, but the tongue is also fire, and it's a world of evil among parts of the body. If the Deputy President had checked his utterances, Mr. Speaker, perhaps we will not be having this motion this evening. So, as we vote tonight, Mr. Speaker, let's also learn. Let's also learn from what the tongue has done to Honorable Gachagua. I will vote, Mr. Speaker, where I'm convinced that allegations against the Deputy President have been proved. I reserve my vote to be cast at the right time.
Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the position of the Deputy President of Kenya is very high. It is a very high calling. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, as we make a decision on the Deputy President of Kenya, I want to remind him that of those to whom more is given, indeed, more is expected of them. And he should not feel that he is being victimized because, Mr. Speaker, the highest standard of this Constitution in 2013, by dint of lack of integrity, the Deputy Chief Justice, Nancy Barasa, lost her job merely because she pinched the nose of Kwamboka. The Deputy President indeed did worse than pinching the nose of somebody. Mr. Speaker, the Deputy President, seeing the allegations against him, I can't imagine that he moves around with the moninga of man of faith and truthful man. Mr. Speaker, if really we must talk about faith, may I remind the Deputy President of a man of faith, a man of letters called Bill Paul. Bill Paul said, man of faith, that integrity is like virginity. You lose it only once. And when you lose it, you can never get it back. The Deputy President has lost that virginity of leadership. Mr. Speaker, coming from a community that paid for the price of inflammatory speeches in Likoni, in Molo, and in Trans Nzoia, if I had time, I would discuss what some of my relatives went through, including Pastor Liai from Ichina village. Mr. Speaker, during the tribal clashes of 1992 and 1997. I would like to remind the Deputy President of the post-election violence of 2007, 2008. One of the reasons why we had to have this progressive constitution that will be removing him, hopefully, this evening from office. Mr. Speaker, even as we ask the Deputy President to leave office, we must insist that the DCI and the ESCC and other investigative institutions must pursue this matter beyond this vote. I have on mind, Mr. Speaker, the activities of the intricate web of companies up to 22, so to speak. The reason I believe young Mutuse could not bring all this, dear senators, colleagues, is because effort requires money, requires time to do all that research. Some of them you have to do clandestine for you to get information. I believe that if the Deputy President had taken the dog, we were going to completely undress him. We would have asked him to justify what activities each and every one of those companies was doing. It's part of the reason why he stepped down, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have evidence which I don't wish to be part of the case, that as soon as the deputy president's brother died, the wife went to the corporate branch of the cooperative bank and started crying there that the manager should stop the deputy president from operating these accounts. Mr. Speaker, finally, the deputy president must be investigated for the role.
Senator Eddy.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you, and I recognize the pressure of time. Mr. Speaker, I am here because of the kindness of the people of Migori County who sent me here